Millionaire exposes incredible secret. What he discovered his daughter and the maid were hiding. Jack Thompson paced the grand marble floor of his opulent North Carolina home, heart racing and thoughts spiraling. Success had made him wealthy, but it felt like a gilded cage. The business he built from the ground up now seemed to teeter on the edge of collapse. Just yesterday, whispers of lawsuits echoed in his ears, a raucous reminder that his empire was less stable than he had believed. But that wasn't all. The tension at home had become unbearable. His gaze flicked to the empty corner of the room where Emily used to sketch, her youthful creativity stifled by his relentless pressure to excel. The realization sliced through him with a bitterness he couldn't articulate. As he climbed the attic stairs, the air grew thick with dust and forgotten memories. He rummaged through boxes, seeking old photographs for a family celebration that felt more like an obligation than a joy. That's when he stumbled upon a hidden box, pushing aside old toys and scraps of wrapping paper. Inside lay a treasure trove of Maria's paintings, vibrant and emotional, filled with dreams he never knew she possessed. Heart racing, he opened letters crammed in between the canvases. They poured forth stories of struggle, resilience, and ultimately a yearning for something more than a life of servitude. Anger bubbled within him as confusion clouded his judgment. Why had he never seen this side of Maria? Before he could process his emotions, images of his daughter flickered across his mind. Her late-night conversations, shared laughter, the secret bond that now felt like a betrayal. Jack's heart simmered with rage and disbelief. Was this woman he considered lesser, inspiring the only person he cared about, the one who was supposed to carry on his legacy? Clenching his fists, he felt the walls of his ordered life closing in. Diligence was his code, money his measure of worth. But perhaps a new language had emerged between them, one based on empathy and artistic expression. As doubt crept in, he felt his grip on reality slip. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The thought of confronting his daughter filled him with dread. What if he was wrong to dismiss this new connection as just a misguided infatuation with an artist? His stomach twisted at the idea that he had let concerns about status overshadow the emotional well-being of the people he loved. However, his prevailing belief clamped down on him like a vice. In a climatic moment of impulse, he ordered Maria's dismissal, convinced he was protecting Emily from a dangerous influence. He felt relief, but it left an acrid aftertaste that gnawed at him. When Emily found out, her fury was an electric shock. Words flew like daggers, piercing through the fog of his decisions. "You don't even see it, do you? Art is our family's salvation," she shouted, revealing a series of illustrations capturing their lives, the facade of happiness now shattered. Jack's breath caught, and in that moment, clarity pierced through his storm of emotions. Was he willing to sacrifice everything he built for a perception of success that now felt hollow? Standing at the precipice of his world, Jack faced the ultimate decision. The choice between monetary stability and real connection. A knock echoed in the corridor, pulling him from his thoughts. Just as he turned, the weight of upcoming decisions settled around him. An impending storm loomed, and everything hung in the balance, his empire and the relationship he so desperately sought to control. In that silence, uncertainty washed over him, leaving an unresolved question echoing in the stillness. What is true success?
Jack blinked against the haze of doubt and realization that engulfed him. As the sound of the knock faded, he felt the room grow oppressive with the weight of unmade decisions. He had taken one action based solely on an instinct to protect, yet now it felt like a shield against the very love he sought to preserve. Taking a slow, steadying breath, Jack turned toward the door, but paused, grappling with the emotional unraveling it would require. Was he ready to face Emily again, to unravel the layers of pain his actions had caused? He felt a surge of frustration surge through him, a reminder of how deeply lodged the values of success and wealth were within his psyche. He had drilled his daughter on ambition just as much as he had drilled himself, and now the irony stung. Determined, Jack walked towards the door and opened it to find Emily on the other side. Her eyes were ablaze with a mix of hurt and defiance. The stark contrast of her lost childlike innocence with the fierce demeanor of a young woman clamoring for her own rights was jarring. A part of him wanted to retreat, to defend himself against the maelstrom he had created, but the other part urged him forward. "Emily," he said, his voice trembling with vulnerability, "can we talk?" "Talk?" she spat, disbelief etched across her features. "What could you possibly want to say? That you made a choice for me? You don't even know me anymore." Her words cut through him, and he felt an unsettling mix of betrayal and guilt. "I just wanted to keep you safe." Safe from what? The woman who made me laugh, who inspired my art? You don't see how stifled I am, do you? It's not safety, it's confinement. Emily's voice quaked,
clenching her fists as if physical actions could summon the gravity of her frustration. "I thought I was doing what a father should do," he began, casting a backward glance to the life he had built. But even as he uttered the words, they felt hollow. The protective instinct was diluted by her rising disappointment. "Your definition of father is suffocating me. My happiness matters too. Art isn't just a hobby, it's my identity, and you just took that away from me." Her voice softened, but the resolve remained steel-like. In that moment, a revelation gripped him. Jack's relationship with success had become corrupted. He was waging a war for legacy when he should have been celebrating creation. He had tortured himself with the notion of financial triumph, but he had failed to recognize another kind of inheritance, one rich with creativity and connection. "Maria," he whispered involuntarily, the woman he had treated as an outsider. Now she seemed to symbolize everything he had overlooked, a catalyst for a connection he'd forced his daughter to suppress. Emily's sharp intake of breath reminded him that this wasn't just about Art or Maria, it was about their fractured bond. "Please, Emily, I don't want to lose you." "Then listen," she said fiercely, "and understand that life can be more than just dollars and status. Find the beauty in what I love. Let art guide us." Jack felt the walls around him rumble, the foundations of his beliefs cracking under the weight of her words. The sense that true success lay not in paper-thin accolades, but in soulful connections, began to take root within him. "Help me understand," he found himself saying, a raw sincerity bleeding into his tone. As Emily's expression shifted from anger to cautious hope, the enormity of the task ahead loomed large. It wouldn't simply be about accepting her life, but also unraveling his own perceptions and realigning his priorities. "Let's start by visiting an art exhibit," she suggested tentatively. The tentativeness in her tone spoke volumes about her hesitant hope for reconciliation. Jack nodded, feeling the resolve flare deeper within him. This was merely the beginning, a required step in a journey he had not anticipated. But as they stood on the brink of a newfound potential, another thought gnawed at him. What if the people observing their exchange, the board members he had neglected, the critics of his empire, were watching? The clock rang loud in the distance, pulling him back to reality, where decisions still loomed over his future. The time had come to face not just Emily, but the business world he had constructed,
A world that would not take kindly to an owner distracted by personal awakenings. Jack felt as if the walls of his carefully constructed life were closing in. The art exhibit Emily proposed wasn't just a simple gathering of colors and canvases. It was a potential turning point, an opportunity for him to reconnect with his daughter and rediscover aspects of himself he had long neglected. As he and Emily navigated the bustling city streets toward the gallery, the sights and sounds around him became a blur, an unyielding reminder of the vibrant life he had overlooked while focused on corporate warfare. The once enticing allure of success seemed dimmer now, overshadowed by the prospect of forging an emotional connection. His mind wrestled with conflicting thoughts. The pressure of expectations from investors and the need to maintain his status rattled him. "Dad," Emily's voice broke through his thoughts, laced with gentle curiosity. "Are you ready for this?" Ready? The word hung between them, laden with substance. He realized his body was tense, like an animal poised for flight. "No, but I think I need to be." She offered him a tentative smile, but it didn't quite touch her eyes. Her disappointment lingered, a whisper of his past failures. Jack's heart sank with the weight of regret, but also sparked with a determination he hadn't felt in years. Upon entering the gallery, Jack was immediately enveloped in an atmosphere alive with creativity. Bold brushstrokes, striking imagery, and layers of stories unfolded before him, igniting a curiosity that had been dormant. He marveled at the interwoven complexity of each piece, delighting in the raw emotions they elicited. This was new. This was art. As they wandered through the exhibit, Emily's passion ignited with each painting. The way she animatedly explained the stories behind the pieces made Jack wish he could paint as vividly with his words, to express his feelings and thoughts as she did through art. The realization slowly settled in. There was a whole world of expression from which he had distanced himself, and in doing so, he also distanced himself from Emily. "Do you see what I mean?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm as she gestured toward a complex landscape painting. "It's not just about what we create, it's about how we experience life. When we place value only on material success, we forget to live." Her words struck him like a bell tolling in the distance, clarity amidst the chaos. Here was an opportunity to reshape his understanding of what mattered, not just in business, but in life and family. Yet as he absorbed this newfound perspective, doubt crept in again. What if his emerging awareness wasn't enough? What if the real world tore them apart again as he tried to merge their lives together? So much had changed since their last meaningful conversation, so much that didn't fit neatly alongside his financial aspirations. He looked at Emily, longing to express his realization, to tell her he had been wrong, that he wanted to learn, but the words faltered on his lips. "Dad," she turned to him, sensing his turmoil, "are you okay?" "Emily, I might need your guidance. I'm not as strong as I thought." She paused, studying him with her fierce gaze. It was then that he recognized the opportunity to step into a realm of vulnerability and growth. But, just as he took a breath to share more, a figure caught his attention. A tall man across the room in a sharply tailored suit, watching them with keen interest. The anxiety surged back with calibrated urgency. He recognized the soul behind that scrutinizing gaze. Instinctively, Jack adjusted his posture, ready to slip back into the familiar armor of his corporate persona. "Who's that?" Emily asked, following his gaze. "Someone from my business," Jack replied, the unease burning through him. Would he be trapped in a duel between two worlds, his old life and the potential of his new one? As he heard the sharp clink of glasses and murmurings from the crowd, he felt the walls closing in once again. Would he allow the opinions of that world to dictate the path he was trying to construct alongside his daughter? The tension hung in the air thick like cadmium yellow paint, and with every breath, Jack realized the stakes were higher than he could have imagined. His next move would redefine not just his relationship with Emily, but also his legacy. intertwining the threads of both worlds in ways he had never anticipated. The question gnawed at him, as both a father and as a businessman. Could he rewrite his narrative without losing everything he had built? Just as that figure began to approach, Jack steeled himself for what was about to unfold, knowing he would have to confront much more than he initially bargained for. The sharp sound of footsteps echoed through the gallery, each one plummeting deeper into Jack's resolve. He forced himself to breathe deeply, attempting to drown out the encroaching swarm of memories connected to the figure striding toward them. It was Nathan, his former colleague, an ambitious executive with a reputation for ruthlessness that Jack had once admired but now fiercely questioned. "Nathan," Jack greeted, cycling through a chaos of emotions as he prepared for what inevitably lay ahead. "Jack," Nathan replied with a nod, his eyes scanning the room before finally landing on Emily. "I see you're not just diving into the world of numbers anymore." A sardonic smile crept across his face. "Taking an interest in the arts. Bold choice, especially at our age." Jack felt a prickle between his shoulder blades. Nathan represented everything Jack thought he wanted: success, wealth, power. Yet here Nathan stood, a reminder of all he might lose if he continued down this path of emotional exploration, as vulnerable as a painter without a canvas. "Art can be quite enlightening," Jack replied, mustering a composure that felt hollow, but he remained tethered to Emily's presence beside him. She watched him, her gaze flickering with an unvoiced question. "Enlightening? Perfect for when you want to escape reality," Nathan scoffed, his tone dripping with disdain. "But let's be honest, Jack, that's not the way to build a legacy." He glanced around, gesturing toward the crowd. "These people won't help you climb the ladder. You'd do much better to surround yourself with the right investors, people who understand the stakes." Emily's brow furrowed. She felt the wave of Jack's tension ripple through her. He squeezed her hand momentarily, a silent plea for support. "You're right, Nathan, in the sense that those connections matter," Jack countered, carefully selecting his words. "But I'm learning that true connections matter more. Family and joy. This isn't just about climbing ladders anymore." Nathan's surprised chuckle echoed painfully in Jack's ears. "Oh, Jack, when did you start thinking like this? Do you really believe emotions can get you ahead?" Jack's heart raced, a familiar urge to retreat from the confrontation nearly compelling him to abandon this newfound revelation. But as he glanced at Emily, her unwavering gaze strengthened his resolve. "No," Jack replied, his voice firmer than he expected. "I believe it's hope and understanding that builds strength, strength in relationships." A flicker of irritation crossed Nathan's face, replaced quickly by a calculating smile. "This little art escapade, a fleeting distraction. Just remember, you can't pay the bills with feelings. You think this will help unite you with your daughter? A few paintings and a couple of exhibitions? You should know better." His words stung and echoed in Jack's mind, worming into the cracks of his newfound determination. Suddenly, Nathan's presence felt suffocating, a reminder of all Jack feared losing while trying to embrace these softer side of life. "Maybe you're right," Jack conceded, a slight tremor affecting his otherwise steady response. "But if it means reconnecting with her, it's worth it. I can't only focus on profits anymore. Family is more important than any deal." Jack felt a surge of self-assertiveness that he hadn't anticipated. Daring as it was, vulnerability carried newfound strength. For the first time, it dawned on him that he was no longer the man Nathan had once lauded. "Suit yourself, Jack, but what happens once this little chapter fades away?" Nathan leaned closer, the taunting glimmer in his eyes sharp as ever. The confrontation was palpable, the air thickening as each man stood firm in their beliefs. Jack's heart raced as he prepared to navigate this precarious ground. He had laid a foundation of intention and vulnerability, but could he withstand the weight of Nathan's challenges? Fury burned into determination, igniting within him the understanding that being himself was inherently more valuable than the corporate accolades he had collected. But Nathan's presence lingered, a reminder of the risks associated with pursuing authentic connections. How much of my life am I willing to dismantle for this connection? Jack wondered, quietly reevaluating everything he thought he understood about success. Just as his resolve began to solidify, a loud crash pierced the ambiance of the exhibit, snapping his focus. Glass shattered nearby, and gasps erupted from the crowd. "Dad!" Emily yelped, her voice cutting through the chaos. Jack's attention snapped back, ready to protect her at any cost. What he didn't know was that the event unfolding before him would force him to confront not just Nathan's assumptions
about investments in success, but hidden truths within his own family that could reshape the course of their relationship. Jack braced himself, the walls of his world quaking once again. Chaos consumed the gallery as Jack's instincts surged to the forefront. The crash of glass ricocheted in his mind, now overshadowing Nathan's icy demeanor. His gaze locked onto Emily, who stood rooted in place, eyes wide. He sensed the impending desperation, the instinctual pull to shield her from whatever danger loomed. "Stay back," he instructed quietly, positioning himself between her and the source of the commotion. The crowd swirled around them, faces marked by shock. Jack's own heart thundered in his ears, but he fought to maintain control. It was time to act, and clarity was essential. Before the adrenaline soaked through him, Jack scanned the gallery floor for the cause of the disruption. A young man, perhaps in his early 20s, was scrambling to gather shards of glass, the remnants of an overambitious installation designed to provoke. Creativity turned chaotic. Art misfired. As the young man collected himself, Jack saw a flicker of recognition. An artist's desperation mingled with shame. It wasn't just a misstep, it was a manifestation of fear, a failure that mirrored his own internal strife. Something clicked in that moment, igniting a realization. "Hey, are you okay?" Jack asked, his tone softening, stepping toward the artist. The question flowed from a sympathetic place, one he had cultivated through his newfound understanding of vulnerability. I just wanted to make an impact," the artist stammered, eyes darting to the remnants of his work. "I didn't mean to ruin anything." "Sometimes impact comes from failure," Jack interrupted gently, bending to help him gather the pieces. "Every misstep is a lesson." Out of the corner of his eye, he caught Emily watching, her eyes shifting from fear to admiration. This was growth. Perhaps he could teach as much as he learned. "Watch, let's do this together." Jack positioned himself beside the artist, their hands working in tandem, breaking the tension that had swelled between them. The glass scattered across the floor began to seem less a symbol of chaos and more a testament to creativity's untamed edge. In this one instance, Jack discovered something profound. Connecting with others didn't rely solely on lofty ideals or grand gestures, but in shared experiences and simple acts of kindness. The artist looked less burdened as they spoke, a simple bond forming, an echo of Jack's evolving character. When they finished, Jack turned his attention back to Emily. "Are you all right?" he asked, noting the sparkle of admiration mixed with pride in her eyes. "I am," she replied, her voice firm. "That was really cool, Dad." Her words sent a thrill of warmth through Jack. He hadn't just acted as her protector. For the first time, he felt like her guide. The realization washed over him that this moment, only minutes old, held the promise of something deeper. If he could extend understanding beyond just himself, he could reshape his relationship, not only with Emily, but with those around him. Then came the second wave of realization. The weight of Nathan's skepticism echoed in his mind. Embracing vulnerability felt like a tightrope dance, teetering between personal growth and the harsh judgment of the world. "The world isn't as cruel as it seems," Jack spoke, louder now, addressing the gathered crowd. "Art is a reflection, not always perfection.
He noticed several attendees nodding, reflecting the collective craving for authenticity over facade. This connection, this simple act of understanding, shifted something fundamental within Jack. He could be both a businessman and a bohemian, learning to balance ambition with empathy. As he stood there, hope burgeoned within him. The squabble with Nathan felt trivial, a lingering ghost no longer capable of instilling fear. The moment was a pivot, unearthing unfeigned relationships, those that mattered most. But just as Jack started to bask in this newfound alignment, a loud voice broke through the crowd. "Jack, you were given a choice, remember? Don't forget about what's at stake." Jack spun around. It was Nathan, his voice laced with challenge. The tension snapped back into place, the internal conflict resurfacing. Just as Jack felt he was crafting a new identity, something threatened to yank it from him. "Now we really need to talk," Nathan continued, words thick with implication. Jack's heart raced, both excited and apprehensive. He was ready to confront Nathan once and for all, or risk losing everything he had struggled to build. The stakes had never been higher. It was a moment that could redefine everything he had worked to achieve, evolve or retreat. Jack's pulse quickened as Nathan's presence loomed over them, a palpable reminder of the world outside the gallery, where ambition clashed with emotional vulnerability. The vibrant backdrop of art transformed into shadows, signifying the existential peril he faced. He had ventured into a landscape of genuine interaction, yet the specter of Nathan's cold perspective threatened to pull him back into a realm devoid of warmth. "What do you mean by what's at stake?" Jack questioned, his voice steady despite the tumult within. The moment hung in the air, pregnant with tension, as a few bystanders shifted closer, their curiosity piqued. Nathan's eyes narrowed, his demeanor calculated. "You've made a spectacle of yourself, Jack. Think about your reputation. You're a man who claims to understand art, yet here you are playing the soft-hearted savior in front of a crowd that expects so much more." Jack felt every word as an indictment, dredging up old insecurities he thought he had evaded. He struggled against the tide of disdain, fighting to maintain the poise he had so earnestly cultivated. "Reputation fades. What matters is authenticity. I can't hide behind a facade anymore," he asserted, though doubt flickered in his mind. The crowd was rooted in silence, their eyes darting between Nathan and Jack. They were witnesses to a collision of ideals, and Jack understood far too well the slippery nature of public. But there, amidst an audience poised for judgment, something within him stirred. He was done pretending. "I am not here to conform," Jack declared, voice gaining strength. "Art isn't just about success, it's about truth. It's about connection, and that's more profound than any accolade you might fancy." In that moment, Jack felt a shift within himself, a surge of determination. This wasn't just a confrontation with Nathan, it was also a confrontation with his past self, the one constrained by expectations. He caught Emily's gaze from the periphery, her expression a mixture of pride and concern. As he stood up to Nathan, he wasn't merely defending himself, but also setting an example for her, a testament to the power of authenticity. "Are you really willing to risk everything? Your business? The influence you have?" Nathan pressed, a smirk creeping into the corners of his lips. Jack was aware of the stakes. Doubt gnawed at him. His empire could collapse with one poor decision. Yet, under the weight of Nathan's condescension, he sensed a call to liberation. If he collapsed under this pressure, what kind of man would that make him? "I'm willing to risk everything for something real," Jack said, each word a defiance against conformist chains. The gallery felt electric, an energy pulsating through him that connected with the artist they had just helped together. The fractured glass scattered across the floor transformed from a mess to a mosaic symbolizing resilience. A tension-defining silence enveloped the room. Jack was no longer merely an art dealer. He was an advocate for something greater, a voice for those who dared to fail, to create in the face of chaos. Nathan sneered, yet Jack saw a flicker of uncertainty behind his bravado. The game was shifting, and for the first time, Jack felt he had the upper hand. It wasn't just a matter of reclaiming his identity. It was about constructing it anew on the foundation of emotional insight, something Nathan would never comprehend. But just as victory seemed within reach, Nathan leaned in, lowering his voice for a piercing whisper that only Jack could hear. "You may have made a scene today, but remember, there are secrets that could unravel everything. Keep playing hero, and you'll see just how frail your world truly is." The ominous words reverberated in Jack's mind, a dark undertone that clashed against the light he had just begun to embrace. Doubt once again crept in. How long could this facade of growth hide the impending storm? As Nathan stepped back, the room still buzzing with spectators, Jack felt a pivotal choice resting heavily on his shoulders. Should he confront the secrets haunting him, or focus on the delicate balance he was beginning to forge between vulnerability and strength? With the future hanging in the balance, Nathan's challenge echoed as Jack wrestled with the question. Could he withstand the threats ahead while remaining true to himself? The moment approached where clarity would meet chaos, but the path forward remained uncertain. Jack took a deep breath, ready to navigate the tumultuous waters before him. What lay on the horizon was more than a matter of business. It was the opportunity to uncover the hidden truths that echoed deep within his life. The time had come to face not just Nathan, but the secrets that threatened to surface, changing everything he had fought to rebuild. Jack felt the weight of Nathan's words linger long after the confrontation faded into the background. Each step away from the crowd felt heavier, charged with an urgency that mirrored the chaos raging inside him. He needed to process what had just happened, not just the public clash, but the deeper currents of fear and revelation surfacing within him. He found himself gravitating towards a quiet corner of the gallery, the muted colors of the walls offering a momentary sanctuary from the judgmental eyes that had witnessed his vulnerability. The scent of aged wood and fresh paint intoxicated him, reminding him of the beauty inherent in creativity, in risking the unknown. But that same beauty felt overshadowed by Nathan's insinuations, as if he had just unveiled a hidden landscape of secrets that could unravel all Jack had worked to rebuild. Jack closed his eyes, taking a breath that was both steadying and empowering. He was fully aware that confronting Nathan had shifted more than just their dynamic. It laid bare the fissures in his life that he could no longer ignore. Secrets. He clenched his jaw at the thought. Unearthing these buried aspects of himself could lead to true liberation, provided he had the courage to face them. But every choice came with peril. He was no novice in the art world. Every risk could cost him more than just a reputation. It could threaten his very identity. "Art is truth," he muttered to himself, the words nearly a mantra. The artist he had fought for, the one whose passion had sparked this confrontation, had reminded him that authenticity mattered above all else. But now the need for truth was tethered to his family, his daughter. He realized there were layers of his own vulnerability that he had yet to confront. Emily, with her intrigue towards the world of art, had become a mirror reflecting back parts of him he believed were long buried. Returning to the crowd, Jack scanned the faces around him, searching for Emily. He spotted her at the periphery, still enraptured by the remnants of the exhibition. He weaved his way toward her, senses heightened. Nathan's threats echoed ominously in his mind. What secrets could unravel everything? The question gnawed at him, mingling with the unwavering affection he felt for his daughter. "Hey," Jack said gently, kneeling to meet her gaze. "What did you think of that, what I said?" Her eyes sparkled with admiration, but were clouded by a deep fear he recognized all too well. "I was proud of you, Dad, but
You looked scared." Scared? The word hung in the air. Them, fragile yet pungent. "I am scared, Emily, scared of the things I don't know and how they'll impact us." "Like Nathan?" she asked, innocent curiosity etched on her face. "Yeah, like Nathan," he admitted. A spontaneous wave of warmth flowed through him as they communicated in a silent understanding, a connection deeper than words. Jack contemplated the fragility of this moment, realizing that these conversations could lead to greater revelations. They both stood on the precipice of change, their lives intertwined in ways he had taken for granted before. Nathan's words were not just a threat to his professional life, but echoed the possibility of hidden truths within his family dynamics. "Emily," he ventured, gauging her reaction, "what if we explored the things that scare us together?" He took a deep breath, aware that this invitation to discover the unknown was both painful and necessary. Her brow furrowed, her resolve igniting a spark of shared courage. Like what secrets? The gravity of the question loomed larger than he imagined. The answer could potentially alter their lives forever, shaking the foundations of their familial bonds. Jack felt a strange mixture of dread and exhilaration, an impending journey waiting to unfold. As their eyes locked, he realized this was only the beginning, a chance to redefine their relationship amidst the revelations ahead. But the uncertainty about what they could discover weighed heavily, echoing Nathan's warning in a haunting refrain. Jack could no longer afford to hold back. Just as he had confronted Nathan, he must now confront the shadows lurking within his own home. A new challenge loomed. At what cost would truth come, and how would it shape them? With a shift building within him, Jack recognized the urgency for clarity over chaos. What lay ahead would require all the courage he could muster. What if, behind the exploration of fear, they uncovered something life-altering? As resolve crystallized within him, he stood, hand in hand with Emily, ready to navigate the fragile space between truth and deception. The storm was brewing. What kind of secrets lay hidden, waiting to be unearthed? The atmosphere shifted subtly as Jack and Emily stood together, the weight of their shared decision pressing down on them like the thick humidity before a storm. Jack felt the first ripple of trepidation gnawing in his stomach. There was no going back now. As they began moving toward a quieter corner of the gallery, away from the clamor of art enthusiasts and murmuring critics, Jack's mind raced with the implications of their conversation. "Do you remember that time I told you about the painting I almost didn't show?" he asked, attempting to anchor their discussion amid the turmoil. They settled on a secluded bench, the dim lighting surrounding them creating a cocoon of intimacy. Emily nodded, her brow still furrowed, as she processed his question. That painting had once represented his fear of vulnerability, the self-doubt that plagued him constantly, and revealing it had been a risk that had almost cost him everything. "It felt like I was exposing a part of myself, one I thought I had hidden away for good. But showing it, making it public, it taught me that facing those fears can also lead to unexpected freedom," he continued, testing the waters of their dialogue. Each word dripped with a nostalgic urgency as he ushered her to reflect on the risks that came with honesty, even in art. As he spoke, Jack suddenly sensed that their exploration of fear had layers. It wasn't merely a journey, but a deeper excavation of their identities. His as an artist and father, hers as an emerging individual grasping at the complexities of the world. "What if we uncover things about ourselves that we didn't expect?" Jack asked, locking eyes with Emily, allowing the weight of his inquiry to sink deep. "What if it hurts?" she replied, the tremor in her voice betraying her courage. "Pain can lead to growth," he asserted, feeling the truth of the statement resonate within himself as well. He had often skirted around the messiness of life, fearing the confrontation of discomfort, but evading it had become a hollow existence. He refused to let fear dictate what he and Emily could uncover together. "The hardest truths can sometimes bring us closer," he encouraged her, his own vulnerability refreshing and terrifying all at once.
Jack envisioned a future where transparency replaced the stumbling blocks of their past, a future unshackled from the secrets they had kept from each other, and, perhaps, even from themselves. He sensed time bending on itself within this fleeting moment of clarity. He inspected the outlines of her face, illuminated by the warm glow of the gallery lights, and realized this was an opportunity to strengthen their bond against the looming shadows threatening to engulf them. With renewed resolve, he asked, "Would you be willing to start with one truth today?" Emily's eyes widened ever so slightly, the prospect igniting a flicker of determination within her. What if we talked about what scares us the most? Her challenge ignited a stimulus within him, and Jack felt alive with possibility. They were not just intertwining their fears, they were drafting a map toward uncharted territories of courage. With the stakes heightened, he gestured toward the center of the gallery, where pieces of art remained shrouded in mystery behind glass. "Together," Jack said, steeling himself, "let's face what scares us." The concept felt exhilarating, like standing at the edge of a precipice, the void beneath promising both danger and exquisite liberation. The gallery buzzed around them, beckoning potential, and Jack felt the pulse of their moment amplify as the realization settled over him. This journey would require more than just bravery. It would demand honesty, agency, and an unwavering commitment to confront whatever lay in the shadows. "Okay," Emily breathed, nodding. "Let's start." As they rose and turned toward the heart of the gallery, Jack's conviction fully nested within him. Little did he knew it would usher in revelations beyond their anticipated discussions. Pieces of his life he thought safely ensconced were about to be rattled awake. Just then, a flicker of motion caught his attention across the room, a figure leaning into the exhibited art. Something within him shifted. That looming figure, with its aura of familiarity yet shrouded in mystery, stirred a mixture of dread and anticipation. Who were they, and what role might they play in the transformative journey he and Emily had just committed to? Jack felt volatility surge within him. He was about to confront the very thing he feared most, his own hidden truths. And perhaps, just perhaps, it was time to face the reality that even in their pursuit of honesty, more secrets awaited to be discovered. Jack led the way through the thrumming heart of the gallery, his senses heightened by anticipation and unease. Each passing piece of art seemed to whisper secrets he wasn't yet ready to hear, but the figure that had caught his eye across the room loomed larger in his mind. It held the potential to shift their course, like a gust of wind altering the trajectory of a fragile kite. "Just focus on what scares you most," he reminded himself. Yet his thoughts spiraled back. Who was that person? What connection did they share that would expose fractures he was more than willing to overlook? He felt Emily's hand brush against his arm as they navigated through the display of paintings. The touch sparked something inside him, a tether binding their resolve. "What's your greatest fear in all of this?" she asked, her voice firm and unwavering, as if she were testing the waters of his commitment to this journey. His moment of truth loomed closer. "Honestly, it's becoming irrelevant. It's one thing to paint my perceptions and feelings, it's another to admit that they could be meaningless to anyone else," he admitted, each word drenched in vulnerability. Jack felt a wave of shame wash over him. What if he truly was just a shadow of what real art demanded? Emily seemed to absorb his confession, her gaze never wavering. "I get that," she replied, "but don't forget it's the connection in art that gives it meaning." He marveled at her insight. "Perhaps that's the key," he mused aloud. "If this figure has something to teach me about vulnerability and connection, it could change everything." As they approached a series of vivid landscapes, Jack could feel the old familiar fear, a whispering critic within him urging him to duck back into the shadows. Would confronting this figure reveal the cracks in his carefully constructed reality? Cautiously, he maneuvered through the crowds until he stood close enough to peer at the person leaned against a sculpture. It was a man, his posture relaxed yet observant, as if grappling with a profound understanding of the world around him. Jack felt a tug of recognition, tight and painful. This was no simple stranger. But before he could
dwell on the inference, Emily broke into his thoughts. "What's wrong?" she asked. He knew he had to reveal the truth, but the words stuck in his throat. "The man, I think he knows me," Jack finally said, his voice trembling against the expected boldness he had summoned only moments before. "What does that mean?" she pressed, gently, her curiosity coaxing him to come out from behind the veil that shielded his innermost turmoil. "He was part of my past, a time when I thought I could shape my art without consequences. I turned my back on everything he represented." The admission felt cathartic, yet terrifying, akin to shedding old skin. Jack found exhilaration rising, as if acknowledging this truth could lead to uncharted revelations. Emily's eyes sparkled with understanding. "Maybe it's time to own your past instead of hiding from it." A sense of resolve surged within Jack at her words, blurring the edges of fear. This could be the closure he needed, the chance to explore whether his art had meant something, despite the distance he had tried to create. The man suddenly turned, their eyes locking. Jack felt his breath hitch. There was no turning back, not now. As the figure approached, a sense of inevitability hung heavy in the air, like clouds poised to burst. What he and Emily could soon uncover might reshape or shatter their perceptions of art, of themselves, he knew. The gravity of their moment weighed upon him, pressing down with undeniable force. He braced himself. The unmasking of past secrets was beckoning, a challenge against the very fabric of who he believed he was. Before he could draw another breath, the man spoke, his voice deep and resonant, sending vibrations through Jack's bones. "Jack, it's been a long time." And with those words, Jack understood the weight of what was about to unfold, a confrontation not just with the man, but with all he'd tried to bury. What revelations lay ahead as they stood at the precipice of discovery? Jack felt a tremor course through him, each heartbeat sinking with the intensity of the moment. The figure before him was none other than Derek Malone, his former mentor and a celebrated artist who had once believed in Jack when ambition blinded him. Derek's presence invoked a powerful mix of nostalgia and regret. It felt like standing before a mirror that reflected past choices and the tangled web of his professional life. "Derek," Jack managed, the name slipping through his lips like a whisper of reverence. A flood of memories crashed upon him, late-night discussions about art, the exhilaration of creating, and the betrayal of abandoning his true passions for unrelenting ambition. "What happened to you?" Derek asked, his tone measured yet laced with genuine concern. "You've been chasing shadows, Jack." A sharp breath caught in Jack's throat, the clarity of Derek's words shrouded in layers of shame. He could feel Emily's gaze igniting a flicker of courage within him. "I let my fear of failure dictate my path. In doing so, I lost sight of my art, my connection with the people who mattered," he admitted, his voice trembling yet resolute. "Art is a reflection of the soul," Derek said, nodding slowly. "You've strayed from your purpose, from the passion that first drove you. It's not too late to reclaim it." Emily's hand tightened around Jack's, as if she was offering unwavering support in this moment of revelation. He looked at her, seeing the hope and encouragement sparkling in her eyes. She had been his guiding beacon, reminding him of the beauty and joy in vulnerability. Together, they had chosen to confront their fears, and now Jack stood poised on the brink of transformation because of her. "I know that now," Jack said, the conviction swelling in his chest. "But I need to navigate this new landscape. Can you help me do that?" Derek's expression softened as he studied Jack. "This isn't merely a matter of mentorship anymore. It requires self-discovery. Being an artist isn't just about painting. It's about embracing the truth of who you are."
You must unearth the fears that bind you and express them in your work. Jack absorbed Derek's wisdom, the torrents of his earlier dismissiveness fading. The weight of Nathan's judgment seemed to lift, as the realization dawned that he did not have to fit a mold predicated on others' expectations. His journey of rediscovery wasn't just personal, it resonated with Emily's burgeoning passion and the authenticity they were beginning to carve out together. "What if I fail?" Jack asked quietly, the question piercing through the newfound clarity. "Failure is but a stepping stone to understanding your true self," Derek replied, conviction dancing in his voice. "Embrace it, and it will give you the strength to create without fear." With each probing word, Jack uncovered layers of himself he had long neglected. He glanced at Emily once more. Her eyes glistened with anticipation. She was a living testament to the transformation he sought. Art embodied, courage bloomed, and connection kindled. "Together, we can unravel these complexities," he said, the spark of collaboration igniting a shared sense of purpose. "I may be a businessman, but that doesn't mean I can't also be an artist." A smile broke across Emily's face, one buoyed by the recognition of their joint expedition into the realm of authenticity and the promise of creation nurtured in love and understanding. Derek inclined his head, as if acknowledging the bond binding them. "Then let me assist you in exploring the truths yearning to be articulated. We can create something meaningful, something fundamental to your existence." Just then, the crowd around them began to acknowledge the moment, whispers of curiosity swelling. Jack realized it was a manifestation of the ripple effect his transformation would have, not just on himself or Emily, but also on the legacy he wished to forge. They stood there as a united front, ready to face the world with artistic zeal that transcended the corporate facade. "I may be a businessman, but that doesn't mean I can't also be an artist." A smile broke across Emily's face, one buoyed by the recognition of their joint expedition into the realm of authenticity and the promise of creation nurtured in love and understanding. Derek inclined his head, as if acknowledging the bond binding them. "Then let me assist you in exploring the truths yearning to be articulated. We can create something meaningful, something fundamental to your existence." Just then, the crowd around them began to acknowledge the moment, whispers of curiosity swelling. Jack realized it was a manifestation of the ripple effect his transformation would have, not just on himself or Emily, but also on the legacy he wished to forge. They stood there as a united front, ready to face the world with artistic zeal that transcended the corporate facade. "Let's begin this journey anew," Jack declared, clarity enveloping him, igniting the path ahead. "No more shadows, only light." As the words spilled forth, a cascade of emotions surged through him: relief, empowerment, and finally, hope. This was it, the moment of true transformation. He was ready to embrace failure, the colorful strokes of vulnerability, and take ownership of both his past and his future. He clutched Emily's hand tighter, both aware that they had crossed a threshold together, no longer bound by the expectations of others, but liberated by the raw power of their chosen destinies. This was their rebirth. Years down the line, as Jack took his place in art history, comparable to where he had stood in the business world, he knew he would reflect on this moment as the pivotal turn toward a life richer in experiences than accolades. Together, he and Emily would change the narrative, and the relationship they rebuilt would flourish in transformative artistry, unraveling the secrets they had discovered along the way. With renewed purpose, Jack realized he wasn't just reclaiming his past. He was forging an authentic future, one filled with creativity, connection, and endless possibilities waiting to be explored. This was it, the moment everything changed. Now, for you in the audience, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire transformations like Jack's.
Leave a like now to support this journey and feed the algorithm that fuels these essential narratives. Comment your reactions and theories about Jack's transformative journey. What will he create next? And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, who understand the importance of uncovering their own truths. Don't wait even one more second to show your support for authentic storytelling.